Hello once again, and welcome to another edition of the SaskAgToday.com Roundtable, joined by Chief Agricultural Editor for SaskAgToday.com, Kevin Hursh, and by 620 CKRM Regina AgriNews Director Ryan Young. I'm your host, GX94 Yorkton Agriculture Director Doug Falconer, and of course it's mid-August already, and I guess the first thing we should talk about is harvest. Looks like you're already underway, Kevin.
Yeah, we're well underway, probably 35% done, I guess. A little ahead of the whole Southwest region, but our crops are poor. And when it's an early harvest, usually it's not good news. We're done maple peas, working in some lentils that are pretty disappointing yields, working also in some chickpeas. They're a little bit better, a little bit more hopeful for them. One of the issues that, at least in the dry areas, is going to be quality. I'm not a durum grower, at least not this year, but I'm hearing reports of low test weights and dropping to 2 and 3 and maybe worse than that in some instances. Now, maybe as harvest moves into the areas where crops are better, the quality will also improve. But certainly in some of the people I've talked to, quality issues are paramount.
And so what kind of yields are you having there, Kevin?
The maple peas averaged right around 20, just maybe a touch better than 20. I was hoping the large green lentils would do similar, and I'm embarrassed to say that looking like only about 13 or 14 bushels an acre. A little too early yet to get a read on the chickpeas, but I think they will at least be better than the lentils when we get into them.
Dry as well. I know earlier this week near my hometown, combine sparked a fire, and it took a number of fire trucks to respond to the scene to put that wildfire out. I'm not sure how much acres is down there yet, but Ryan, I know you live near Regina. Has there been much harvest activity going on there?
Not from what I've noticed, no. It looks like we could see another week before I see combines out in full force. There is a wheat crop near where I live by Grand Coulee there that looks like it is almost ready to be harvested, as well as some canola as well. I noticed a little bit of what appears to be wind damage. I could be wrong on that. A little bit of crop damage on some crops, due to the hot and dry conditions that we've had over the last few weeks. But other than that, still waiting in the wings for harvest to get going in earnest over here in Regina.
I was up in the Waukah area over the weekend and spoke to some farmers there. One guy had tried combining his barley. It wasn't quite ready to go yet, still a little too high moisture content. But a lot of lodging in a lot of the fields around that Waukah area. It sounded like they'd had some sort of a windstorm or something, and a lot of crops there were lodged, but a lot of them look like they're pretty close to being ready to combine. So even that far north, that Prince Albert Waukah area, I saw a lot of ripe crops up there. And of course, Ryan, you mentioned canola field, and canola prices once again seem to be dropping. What's behind it? Do you know what's going on, Kevin?
I think it's a number of factors, but following the soybean complex is one of them, and the USDA or WASDE report that came out that showed more soybean production expected and a bigger carryover expected. So yeah, canola is really ratcheted down. I think on a cash basis, you'd have trouble finding $12 a bushel for immediate delivery. And with the pending rail strike or lockout situation, buyers are not going to be anxious to be in the marketplace either, because the whole system is already slowing down in anticipation of it grinding to a complete halt.
Ryan, you spoke with Adam Pacalo on Friday. Did he have any more light to shed on it?
One thing to add to what Kevin alluded to with the soybean prices going down as well was crops, oilseed crops in South America. They kind of look promising. So that would be another thing that could be a factor in the current trend of where oilseed prices are going, especially for canola. But other than that, not a heck of a whole lot. It kind of seems like to him, there's not a whole lot of news that's kind of pushing the markets to up or in the current direction that they're going, especially when it comes to wheat as well. There isn't much in the way of positive news that's making the price going up. Not that there's a whole lot of negative news, just not a whole lot of news at all. As September Minneapolis wheat closed Friday at $5.9325. It's up 7 cents in day trading, relatively unchanged on the week at about 3/4 of a cent. And then for November canola, just when you think it can't get any lower, it gets lower again. It closed at 564.10. That's down $13.10. That's down $28 this week. The last kind of lower end of the range was set last Wednesday at 565.50 a ton. So it just seems like canola just wants to keep going further and further down. And I don't know, who knows what factor is going to be the catalyst for it to stabilize and get back up.
Of course, August 22nd, which is next Thursday, that's the deadline that we could see either a strike or a lockout at CN and CPKC Rail, as workers for both railways are going to be in a legal strike position by then. Obviously, that's what's really driving a lot of this as well, right, Kevin?
I think so. You will see a lot of buyers go to a no bid situation, just not wanting product. Others will buy, but only at very low prices as they have storage available. And it's going to, even if the strike doesn't happen, or lockout doesn't happen, we've seen damage just because the system is already ratcheting down. Ships are not arriving, sales have been diverted. It'll take a while to gear back up, but if this does, as many expect, end up in a full-blown strike lockout and then continues for some time, because the federal government does not seem in any hurry to impose binding arbitration, this could be a major setback for the entire economy, but particularly for the grain economy.
I know a lot of times, Kevin, I know my dad used to haul sometimes wheat right off the combine to the elevator. Do people have enough bin space out there to hold what they need for now if this does happen?
Most producers are pretty well set up for bin space, and the ones that don't have oftentimes bagging capability, and that's part of their surge production plan or their storage plan for land that's maybe a ways away from home base. So most people, I don't expect to see a lot of grain piled on the ground short term, but we could see some of that in areas that do have a really good crop and had been counting on some quick movement, particularly if you get into areas or a producer that, for instance, grows oats that can yield very well. And if they were counting on some quick movement that doesn't happen, that certainly could put them in a bind.
Some other big news this week was the fact that SARM President Ray Orb retired on Thursday. Ryan, you had a chance to speak with Ray after the announcement. Quite a legacy, I think, that you'll leave, that Ray will leave behind. He followed some big footsteps. I know Sinclair Harrison was president of SARM for a long time, then Neil Hardy, and then Ray Orb took over, and I think he held his own, don't you think, Ryan?
I believe so. Yeah, I think he definitely leaves behind his own legacy in his own right as president of SARM. I asked him that very question about how he wants to be remembered, and he was kind of talking about how, he took a lot of pride in, listening to the concerns of members and rural residents, farmers, and asking some poignant questions to those and powers that be, whether that be in the provincial or federal governments. So that's one thing that we kind of talked about. It was kind of a wide ranging interview as well, just kind of reflecting back over the last 20 years that he's been a part of the board at SARM. I asked him right off the top, what are some of the differences from 20 years ago to now? And he said, ironically, some of the things that we face today are the same as they were 20 years ago, not in the sense of production, but just getting some stuff delivered on time, as well as provincial funding or federal funding for programs. So that's a constant. In terms of regrets or anything like that, or anything left on the table, it was kind of more on the federal side than the provincial side. Just kind of getting more on the federal government's case to get more funding for programs and stuff. He felt like he could have done a little bit more on that, but overall, kind of a good legacy to kind of leave for Ray Orb, as William Huber is going to take over on a acting president role up until March, when SARM delegates will elect a new president to replace Ray. And yeah, kind of interesting that Thursday was his last day. It was initially reported by SARM that his last day was going to be the 31st, but it was a little bit of an oversight. So regardless, he's ready to move on and kind of experience life in a different way.
Kevin,
One
your
of the
reaction to his tenure?
Yeah, one of the lists of previous SARM presidents would have been Dave Merritt as well, right? I think that's right. Dave was president of SARM as well.
Yeah, he might have been, now that you mention it, yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was. And yeah, SARM is always a strong voice for rural Saskatchewan, and Bill Huber is a great guy with a strong legacy, but they do need some younger blood. Bill is up there. You know, I'm sure he's well into his 70s, and I'm not sure how old Ray Orb would be, but it would be nice to see some younger blood in the whole executive of SARM.
And I think that's where it's nice to see here in Saskatchewan. We do have SARM, which is specifically for rural municipalities, and of course SUMA for the urban. Our neighboring province, Manitoba, just has the Association of Manitoba Municipalities. So rural and urban kind of get blended together, and I wouldn't doubt, I'm sure, with the size of Winnipeg, that the rural kind of gets lost in the mix in Manitoba. So it's nice to have an organization that keys on rural issues. All right, and then the last thing we wanted to talk about was SaskPower put out their, I guess it would be their semi-annual news release regarding safety. They usually put one out in the spring for seeding, and now they've put out a reminder to keep it safe in the fall during harvest as well. Ryan, you had a chance to speak with Scott McGregor on that.
Yeah, that's right. You can set your watch to when SaskPower comes out with these reminders, whether it's seeding or harvest, depending on the year. But yep, just an annual reminder to for farmers to keep safe, stay safe around power lines, especially with nowadays with farm equipment being as large as they are. There is a chance that you can get tangled up in a power line. So they just wanted to make sure that there's tips to kind of prevent that, which is planning your route. They also pointed to an online resource that they have. It's an online interactive map that you can find on saskpower.com. It's /lookup-and-live. It's a provincial map of where all the power lines are located in the province. So if you're somewhere like, say, let's use Margot, for example, where I'm originally from, you can go there, you can go around the Margot area, you can find the power lines where they're located, and then you can plan your route from there, all in an effort for prevention. And should you get tangled into a power line, they also had procedures and steps on how to safely exit your vehicle. Basically, it revolves around, swinging your door open, jumping from the vehicle to the ground as far as you can anyway, from within reason, of course. And then just making sure that you're at least 10 feet away from the vehicle and the line, because you don't know what's electrified by that point as well. So in most cases, though, unless if you have like a fire in your combine or something like that, they usually recommend to just stay in the vehicle. It's the safest place to be. Call 911 and they'll get crews out to help you out. So just some basic preventative measures and tips on how to stay safe for this harvest season. And there's actually been quite a fewer instances of line contacts, about 14 fewer around this time of year compared to last. So I think the message is getting across a little bit.
And Kevin, with you, are in the midst of combining right now, not just power lines, but also making sure you get enough sleep and food and water and all that sort of thing as well this time of year.
Yeah, I wonder whether GPS has made it better or worse as far as avoiding power lines and hitting power poles. With self-guidance, maybe you take your eye off the ball. But I just yesterday I was a terrible tailwind in these lentils. You couldn't hardly see the front of the combine, but the GPS was following the line. The combine was working well. Okay, come to the end of the field. Yeah, there's a power pole at the end of the field, but it's a ways away. But I forgot about the guy wire that comes out into the field a ways. Oh, a little closer to that guy wire than I wish I had have been. So it's safety is always a great message to reinforce.
And you have a water tank out there with you as well?
We've got a truck hooked to a water tank. We're not moving it from field to field because we're spread out a little bit. We should have that, but we've got 2 fire extinguishers on one combine and 3 fire extinguishers on the other one, so.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the SaskAgToday.com Roundtable. On behalf of 620 CKRM Regina AgriNews Director Ryan Young and SaskAgToday.com Chief Agricultural Editor Kevin Hursh, I'm GX94 Yorkton Agriculture Director Doug Falconer saying so long until next time.